Hey, listen, would like to thank everybody for tuning in to the Warrior Mindset Podcast. My name is Dr. Joe Martin. I am the host of the show. Today, we have a good friend of mine. His name is Mike Manfredi, been with the police department here in the Central Valley. Retired now. How many years now, Mike?
35. Well, I'm retired a couple of years.
Now, but 35 in service?
Retired about a year and a half, yeah.
Yeah, so but 35 in service.
Yes.
Correct? And we were just kind of having this conversation before we just kind of started rolling, and it'll probably be on the tape here somewhere, just about a mindset. And it was like, man, great point to just kind of roll into introducing ourselves and just welcoming our guests to the warrior mindset mentality. And Mike was just chatting about, the competitions you'd have in the department all the time, whether it's sergeants competing against sergeants, whether it's officers competing with officers, on that mental mindset. Before we roll back into that, Mike, just introduce yourself to the audience, some of your background, where you came from, the schooling, a little bit with the department, and then I'm just going to jump in as we just talk about that, because I invited Mike on this show because we've known each other probably, I think we're doing the math here before we got on camera, about 23 years when I first moved to Fresno. He's been a patient and a good friend of mine, and family friend for years now. So I wanted to invite Mike on because I've known him for such a long time, and he has that mentality, and probably some of the clips will be cut in with the conversation we're talking about diet, nutrition, and the mental aspects of life. That this podcast is here to introduce people to people that I respect, people that I've met over the years, and people that I think have that mental mindset, to constantly keep trying to improve themselves, and also too is drag people with them to make people follow the same type of mindset, that he and I have. So, Mike, just real quick, just introduce yourself to the folks, kind of listen to our podcast, where you're from and all that good stuff.
So, Mike Manfredi said, born here in Fresno, lived here all my life, and, grew up and, I see the change stuff to the Valley. And, it's just, it's funny is, like a lot of times you talk about, I don't know what the audience age range is on this, but it's, you talk to younger people, and especially like before I retired from the department, even now, is you get the youngsters coming in. What was it like in the day, Sarge? What was it like? And as you know, growing up in our age, it kind of led to a lot. You talk about the warrior mindset, is how different things were. Because at 5, 6 years old, okay, hey, go down to your grandparents' farm. You're gonna do this kind of stuff, and you grow up. Hey, that's how your summers are. Or my uncle had a dairy, you go out into the Christmas vacation or summer, you get up at 5 a.m, out feeding cows, milking cows and that stuff. And then, all the jobs now adults have, like throwing a paper. Man, my first paper route was at 9 years old,
Now it's an adult job.
Oh, yeah. And, bagging groceries at, 15, 16. And, landscaping, like when I was going to college, I'd bounce and work in bars and restaurants and stuff at night. And then, okay, during the summertime, okay, going to landscaping, cement, all this different kind of stuff, And just kind of a different, we're a generation that grew up working and long hours. And, okay, you're going to go to school and, there's no student loans and stuff. And, you're going to work, hey, as soon as you get out, or, even high school, hey, by the time you get out of sports practice, okay, now go to your job and work there, till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Well, and also, too, is like, you said, it's funny, you said paper route 9 years old. I think I was 12, and I grew up in New York, and I've told this thing a couple of times on this podcast, is like society was different for you and I. I had a paper route 12 years old. I remember, told the story before, you and I probably talked about this before, wrapping the bag around the handlebars, throwing them in there. And one day it was cold as hell. It's in New York, it's snowing. I told my dad, hey, Dad, listen, can you drive me around the route? And he's like, East Coast guy, the Irish Catholic dude. Hey, is this your route or is it my route? Well, It's my route, sir.
Yeah, rain, doesn't matter and stuff. Yeah.
But also, too, you go, hey, listen, Dad, can you drive me around the route? He goes, am I getting paid for the newspapers or are you getting paid for the newspapers? Well, I'm getting paid. Well, if you're getting paid, get out there and start riding your bike.
And you did the paper route until you started after school sports, and then you turn it over, and then I started my yard care business.
Yeah.
So I was mowing lawns, and my dad was, okay, hey, I get the percentage for keeping the, it's my mower. It's, I got to maintenance on it and stuff, But that's how the business world, that's how the real world works. And so it prepared you for, as an adult, the things that make sense to us. Now it's a different generational thing of, hey, look, you got to pay this. And this is how you do business. And it doesn't matter if you're tired, you have work to do and stuff. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, things have changed.
And that gave us a foot up in the generation now, of like, you look at when I left, I had like 2,000 hours of sick time on the books. I kept losing vacation stuff because I wasn't taking it. And then you look at youngsters like, you carry no time if something happens, And, we're the kind of, hey, there's some overtime and stuff there. I'm going to grab like a squirrel. Me and Pat, we're fighting for overtime. Now they can't get people to do it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and then you're squirreling it away like for, because our parents are depressionary parents. And so, I see no shame to drinking out of mason jars.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff.
Water out of a hose.
Oh, yeah. And it is. And it's just.
My Dasani.
Yeah. And it's where it is, is just the things that you get used to going without sleep and working and doing a lot of things that now is just kind of people look at you. It's kind of a strange concept.
When you were younger, and we these questions that I ask a lot of the people, from that warrior mindset. When you were a young guy, was there one person that you said would be a big influence in you that said you're at a crossroad, 14, 15, 13, 21, whatever the date is, and there was a crossroad, you had to take a fork to the right or fork to the left. Who was like, was there a person earlier on in your life that gave you some positive, feedback to say, hey, Mike, listen, let's do this or don't do that, or, ooh, this isn't a good idea, or, hey, this looks like a good idea? Was there an adult early on in your life that gave you some influence?
And that is probably one of the biggest keys is there are these people, my parents were kind of strict and, both hardworking and stuff. My dad's that kind of guy, had take his 2 weeks vacation. 1 week he'd go work at an extra job to pay for the vacation to take us and stuff on. Yeah. And they were big, especially my mom. She worked at the DA's office and stuff, big on responsibility. Hey, get up, do this. Hey, I didn't look forward to the weekends because, Saturday is
chores.
Yeah, and Sunday is yard day, Saturday's house cleaning day and stuff. But they were there, and my brother was he was funny because he was a guy that he's had to take that choice between, hey, do you want to go and catch the tail end of Vietnam or go to prison?
Oh, check.
And he did a lot of thug stuff, but you're not going to do that. And he would regularly beat my ass. So I learned how to take an ass kicking early on.
How many years older? Yeah. How many years older?
5.5 years old.
5.5. Oh, yeah, I got one 5 younger. Yeah, so they're
and then I had an older sister.
You.
Yeah. So, but I had, it's funny. You look up and you talk about, all the PTSD and military and stuff guys now. But my dad's older brother, he was a guy, he was getting drafted by the Yankees when World War II broke out. And then, sorry, man, you're not going to play ball. You're going overseas. And he's that guy. And if you didn't know him, you would not know that he had done this because he was like the guy everybody liked. He was like the postmaster in Sanger. He, ran Kiwanis, taught hunter safety, and just the nicest guy you ever meet. But he hit from North Africa, the invasion of Sicily, Italy.
No way.
D-Day, Silver Star, 2 Purple Hearts, and, wounded at the Battle of the Bulge, wounded here, and all these major things. And, I didn't even realize, because a lot of people, Big John. And it was funny because I didn't, you think about it one day, I'm out in his garage, his German SS helmet hanging up in the garage, like, there's a guy shot at, took this, and he had just a little box. Hey, it's yours. So
the trinkets.
Yeah.
Of war.
So when we played Army as a kid, I always had to be the German. I learned how to die really well. But even when he talked about this stuff, he had always put it more in a humorous context. And this guy had seen some stuff. He's, just one time he goes, oh yeah, he goes, we're heading to the bridge at Remagen. He goes, and we had the Jeeps. He goes, and we took the windshields off because they reflected light and glare for snipers. He goes, so we put the Germans had these big K-ration boxes and we put those on them. He goes, and we're heading down for the bridge, and an 88 opened up and took out the Jeep in front of us and decapitated the 2 guys. That Jeep goes off. He goes, and a sniper hits ours. The box flips open. He goes, hits the driver. He goes, Dionato. He goes, and he's crying, breaks his nose. He goes, he had a big enough nose to start with anyway. He goes, they're trying to drive the thing. He's just telling these kind of stories.
It's comedic. Mindset.
And this guy had, until finally he gets, wounded for the second time and they have to evacuate him back. And the only thing that worried him is that initially notified his family he was dead. I'm not dead, but you couldn't call anybody back then and stuff, and it wasn't okay. You can go for a deployment, then come back and this, and it was funny because I was at a wedding, probably about 2006. His granddaughter was getting married, and some guys had gone over and they came back, and no one, the military now, no one has ever seen the action we had. I was kind of saying, hey, please, why don't you go talk to that guy over there? Their army, they had to get across the Atlantic, and they had U-boats sinking troop ships.
Yeah.
They had an Air Force at Lvov. Those guys had tanks. They had this, and you look at the casualties and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But it's funny is those guys, for the most part, came back, and you talk to the guys who were vets. I don't know, my dad, my father-in-law, was in Korea. My brother caught the tail end of Vietnam. And then, like, one of the guys that lived down the street, Miller's Lawn, he was like a Navy combat fighter pilot. I was like in the first Gulf of Tonkin war and stuff. And it was all normal. They didn't drone. And it was just, that was a part of our life. Mm-hmm. And there were guys that came back and then just got on with it. So that was kind of an example
of what you grew up with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of this, you just go do what you got to do. And, they always saw, and that was the thing, they always remembered more of a funny part of it. Even like you talk to guys who grew up in the Depression, they remember funny things.
Right.
And they kind of laugh when they're telling the story, not, oh, whoa, we had all this tragedy. Mm-hmm. And so you grow up that thing of, hey, life is rough a lot of times, and a lot of bad things happen, but
you just got to keep moving on.
Keep moving on, yeah.
We there's a term that we use all the time in the SEAL team and things like that. It's the only easy day is yesterday. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because yesterday was tough, and but then these guys, like you said, a lot of your mentors, that were Korean War, Vietnam, World War II, they then make light of it, because if not, you could really go down a rabbit hole.
Oh yeah.
And these guys chose to, put on that armor, that warrior mentality, and go, hey, listen, this was a part of my life. I accept it. They're taking it more of a comedic point of view, and they're rolling with the punches, and they're moving on. I mean, that's kind of a cool, and we've talked a lot over the years, but that's kind of a cool foundation that you built on yourself, that brick and mortar, to where, hey, listen, shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if it does, just let it roll off your back like a duck. Keep moving on. The only easy day is yesterday. Keep trying to do better and better every day.
Well, and that's the thing why, people come to hear the stories is, you hear some people say, hey, enough of the over dramatic or the military is, I always try to, put a funny twist. Mm-hmm. And I try to look for the humor in most things. It's kind of a dark humor, but, and it's funny, people who haven't done some of the things we've done, they don't get it. You got to, now you learn to target your audience, because the people aren't going to find that funny.
Yeah, read your audience, as they say. Like, so when you grew up with a brother, just got done, say, with the tail end of Vietnam. We're a couple of years, past that. But what directed you into like your first responder, into the police department?
Well, at first I thought about, because of my family doing the military. So I looked at, that platoon leader class of Marines. Mm-hmm. But that was during, so I go down, they take us, hey, go's gonna, be a tanker, be this and stuff.
Recruit training centers, yeah.
And so, but it was peacetime. It was during the Carter years. Mm-hmm. And, the military had really fallen off. It's not like now where, the pay and the thing. And now, you slip and fall, you got a check for life and your family and stuff. And they could not recruit good people. And it's just, man, you start looking like, wow, if something happens. But it's something I still wanted to do until what really kind of undid it for me was, we're down at one of the things, and they take the embassy in Tehran.
Oh, yeah.
And so like, okay, hey, we may screw the rest of your college. We go now. And then now we're just going to let those guys sit. And then the Russians go into Afghanistan. Okay, we're going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And so the peacetime military just did not look appealing. It's like, okay, and you just didn't see that there was going to be that turnaround later.
Right.
It's like, this is the way it's just going to keep going. And so my mom been with the DAs, and she knew some officers. So I talked to you. I had a chance. I used to be like an office pet. I'd go down there during the summer. You'd ride the bus downtown, and because all the movie theaters are downtown. So I'd hang around the offices. These guys would take me to court, and you'd meet officers and investigators and stuff. And so working some of the stuff, I got a chance to meet some officers. Like, hey, this is it's just an exciting job. But like I said, is, same as when you went in and some of the direction you've taken with your career is when you look back on your life, you could, like when I was working for Budweiser, while I was waiting to get hired to police department stuff is, what difference does it make if they buy Bud, Coors, or Miller or whatever, right?
Yeah.
When you look back on your life, did I do something that mattered you could be proud of? And everyone else go, hey, you know what? You did the right thing. So where you can make a difference in your life. And so that's what guided that.
And and we'll continue on with the department, but on a little where you segue in is like, that's the whole purpose of this podcast. That warrior mindset. Can you leave, I use the term, can you leave that thumbprint on the earth to where, you left a mark to say to yourself, when we're done, when we leave this earth, do we feel that we made a difference? Do we feel we made a contribution to life? Do we feel that we made, and your kids, and do we make a dent on our children to make sure that they're successful human beings on this earth? And I think that's kind of a cool way where you're thinking about the military, but you wanted to make a difference. You had been involved with a lot of the PD, through the district attorney's office and whatnot. So then you made that decision to go into the department and the academy?
Yes.
And when how old were you when you went to the academy?
26.
26.
Well, what happened is when I first applied, they were kind of going for now a little different diversity. So like I was number 5 on the higher list, like for SO, like, hey, we're going to go number 60, and we're going to go here. And so I waited till they actually were laughing about this the other day. Is for a while they got rid of, kind of like they do with different agencies, and why they're having a lot of problems they do now is, okay, we're going to get rid of the written test. We're going to get rid of the physical agility test. We're going to get rid of this. Well, they decided when my group came on, and they got the guys who've been Marine Corps captains and stuff like that, is they had a college level test. There was like 1,500 of us tested.
Wow.
And it's funny because the guy who Dyer, his dad was a lateral from another agency. We actually sat next to each other, and that kind of formed our friendship from that, like when we took tests. And it was a college level test. And it was like memory stuff of, we're going to read you a story for 5 minutes. Then we're going to ask you questions about it. And then we're going to show you a map. If you had to get from here to here real fast, tell us what streets you would take. Till this, English, all this kind of stuff. And then they went back to, it was funny because they went back to the physical, the wall jumps and run stuff. And I happened to had to go back on a Bud truck that day. So I remember, now for this generation, we have to train them so they could go out and do this stuff. I remember pulling my Bud truck up out front. I'm out there in work boots and a Bud uniform, go out and run and do the test, get back in my truck and drive off,
So you're like, okay, is the test done for here? I got to go back to work.
But, and then that, so I came on with a good group of guys. And
were there a lot of younger guys? Like, so it's 26. Did 26 seem like an average age?
We had some guys who were one guy was 20, wasn't even old enough. He'd have to wait a little bit before he could be an officer.
Right.
We had some are young, and we had, back then, there was an age limit. When I came on, that's why, the only reason why I left the department is there was an age limit when you had to go. So you couldn't come on any older than 35. And we had one guy who was just at the border, and he had been in the Navy. He was like a bank vice president, but he had been he was a submariner in the Navy and stuff. We had 2 guys who had done time that were captains in the Marine Corps. We were all the same age. Yeah. And so, it was kind of the average, but it was about half was younger than us.
Yeah.
So, but and back then we went through that was the last of the high stress academies where, okay, shave stuff off, you ain't gonna canteens. Hey, there ain't no falling out, because now, you can almost go through the whole thing. They put like a little band on you. Oh, they have an injury, so they don't have to run with everybody. They don't have to this. And, they'll have the secret test if you can't pass it, though.
Is there a written test like you had back then?
Each agency is different, but it's not what it was. Yeah. Now it's more the standardized. It's, same as the academy. Back then, like, okay, hey, they're going to lecture, and you take notes.
Right.
And then you're going to go at night, and everything touches the lines, block print that thing and come back. Inspect your notebooks. It was like a 95% was an A. It was like, and you fell below a 75, you're out. Fail a test, you're done. And a lot of practicals, and back then, they could yell at you, a lot more PTing and stuff like that. And they've gotten away from a lot of that. And now it's like the notebooks are, fill in and stuff. Right. It's just, because of a different generation, they've taken away a lot of the high stress and some of the hand-to-hand or physical stuff. Let's mellow it down because it's more important that they feel confidence in themselves than actual having ability.
And that's a tough thing for these young guys nowadays because, and she's like obviously military guy. I'm pro, departments and all that good stuff. Is, man, sometimes I'm like, you're not afraid, but you're like, man, like you guys are like handcuffed.
Well,
and, people can get hurt. You guys.
Well, and here's a problem. So when I came on, it was they pushed a lot of this stuff for us, but I was an instructor for the hand-to-hand. So they sent me those. I went back to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and they actually offered me a job as an instructor for the feds. Ironically, me and the feds, and so I, been all these different schools. They sent us to like the LA Ground Fighting School. The Gracie brothers. That's when they first started out. And so they would we'd do a thing called the Red Man, right? And back then I was lifting all the time, so the Red Man barely covered. I could just aim my joints. And so you would go and so as the instructor, now show me, and I used to do you guys at a time. And what was getting to be a concern is so I'd fight every Friday, 30 different people, 40 different people. And it started being concerned is the old timers, those guys that scared you because they had done that for real. They had been in the military and they came on in the 70s and stuff, and they were some tough old dudes, But what started happening is you started seeing guys who had never, because, school you can't, there's, after school, right? If you got to argue with somebody, and they would come and watch the fight, right? Yeah. And so you grew up, and if you're going to mouth off, well, you better learn to. And we grew up fighting and struggling and stuff. And hey, not the kind of crap they have now because you can't resolve the issues the way we did. But contact sports, we had boxing in high school and stuff, and guys,
smokers
football,
in the military,
football, wrestling, all kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, you start getting a generation that never played contact sports, you started getting guys coming on that had never been in a fight, had never been hit.
Wow.
And I'll tell you this, these guys, go to karate dojo, all this kind of stuff. Until you've been in a fight and been hit and this kind of stuff, it ain't the same. There's a lot of people, black belts, that couldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag.
Yeah.
But that is why you see a lot of the issues you have now with some of the shooting and stuff like this is people are easily overwhelmed. They're not used to confrontation and violence and stuff. And suspects can read that. They can tell when they pull up, someone compared to like, I go, oh, okay then.
Yeah, see what I
give
can
it a good shot, Sonny Buck.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of the problems you have is you start seeing that and when people are, it's a different deal. And then you start having that, and one of the old chiefs, Winchester, he was good about it. He goes, give them a real taste of it. Hey, you're going to break some people's noses, you're going to get some people hurt, but these people need to see what can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you knock these guys down, and some people, some people would give it all, and it was scary because you'd hit, just tap somebody, and they'd roll up in the ball, and you go take their gun off of them and stuff. But he was, no, we need to see, and these people, and we started videoing and showing back to people of, this is what can happen. And guy, there's no stress here. I'm just playing with you.
Yeah.
And then they started getting into, get away from that. Okay, you're a Neanderthal. You need to go over here. We're going to bring in a kind of a new training. And even in the academies of, if an officer, he's like, okay, you need to go down like you're really hurt. And, oh, please stop. Because it's better that they have self-esteem and they feel better about it than actually having any practical ability.
Right.
And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because then when they go out there and they try that, it's not going to work.
Have you guys, back then, like nowadays, the big thing is obviously the Gracies and you got the jiu-jitsu and all that type of stuff. Do you think that's something that is helping the guys out nowadays and gals?
Well, most of them don't.
Do they put in the time to train for that?
Well, the bad thing is a lot of the gang members and stuff are out doing that.
They're out training in the dojos too, yeah, exactly.
And you get it's just, okay, some cops, go to the gym and okay, lift stuff. But yeah, and you have some guys, some more guys are pretty tough. We have one guy, who teaches that stuff, and they give anybody a run for the money.
Yeah.
But you have to put time into that, and you have to this, and people don't want to go out if they don't feel that they're confident and go out and win at it. Most people now, they don't want to come in and, unless they can, everyone look at me, I'm wonderful, I can win. It's hard for a lot of folks now to come in, okay, I'm going to have to come take an ass kick, and I'm going to have to be the, this, and work my way up. And to be good at it, you have to put time in, and you have to be willing to get hurt, and you have to be willing to be uncomfortable.
And then that's what I like. And obviously in the military, when I was in, the same type of thing. It was more old school, and you get banged up, you get beat up, you be training and things like that. It seems like with the police departments nowadays, I see a lot of them are getting into more of the jiu-jitsu and the Muay Thai, and not as much as the bench squat deadlift.
Yeah, but
is it helping? Do you think?
So every 2 years, when you go for your 40 hours of training, and the time, and this is a sad thing, what they used to put into that kind of stuff is now going, okay, we have to allot now to cultural diversity and all this kind of stuff, and this other stuff. Well, we got to take it from somewhere,
right? So the safety part, which is super important, you don't get enough time for that.
Yeah, same as even like at the range when you used to go out to the range and hey, you want to stay out here all day and shoot? Yeah, by all means. Well, now ammunition's is this and so we used to qualify 4 times a year, and each time you had to do it like, well, now you qualify once a year, but you go and shoot 3 times, and all right, good enough, and here is your 40 rounds, and now
go 40 rounds,
but I give the guys our training center they have out there now are pretty good because they try to make it more applicable, and they have like these moving dummies and don't shoot and stuff.
Yeah.
And so they have to work though, but okay, here's the budget you have, and you have to cram all of this stuff in and try to cycle all these people through, but all of these new mandates keep coming out, and it's like, okay, and they take sometimes, and it's not their call though, from the stuff that people really, but as with the training, you can go that one time every couple of years or this, but if you don't go on a regular basis, like the gym, okay, go to the gym, every 2, it's not going to do it.
Your conditioning's not going to be down. You're going to climb over a short wall a couple of times. You're going to be out of breath, and you're not getting trained for that.
Well, and the bad thing about a lot of the people too is the more devices they give them, the more they feel they don't have to do anything, right?
Check, right.
And it's like, when I came on, okay, we didn't have a sergeant carried this big, giant taser-like thing, right? But everybody else didn't have a taser. Yeah, a stick, pear spray, And now it's like, okay, we have tasers, and we have, this, and we have, beanbag guns, and we have canines, and we have all this, and then. Well, the patrol guys aren't going to do that now because, hey, patrol, back then, hey, it's 3 guys, and you were from McKinley down past Jensen and from First Street all the way out. You got 3 guys at night and make do. And now it's like, we're going to bring in this team, and they'll take care of that thing, or we're going to lay it and stuff. And we have all these things, and we don't have to do that anymore. And they try these wrap guns and stuff, and, it's like, well, why don't you do this? But it only works sometimes,
right?
Even the taser and stuff like that. But everybody thinks that they don't have to learn any of this, and you would hear them say that I don't have to learn to fight because I have this.
So
until it doesn't work.
And so, like, say for example, because obviously in the valley here, there's a lot of talk and things of that nature with a lot of the drugs, the fentanyl and all this type of stuff. Because I've never been out there from that point of view. But are these guys, like, when they talk about amped up on drugs and all this? They're super like combative, like is that changed over the years, you think?
Different stuff. It's funny. It's like you talk about that. It's like back in the day when the original like liquid PCP, those guys were insane. I mean, just like you'd see them snap. Physically, when you see a guy jump off a 2nd floor balcony, fracture his ankle, pull it back straight, and try to run on it again, or a dog grab a guy by the nards,
Yeah.
and he just look and go, "Get your dog off of me." Okay,
Yeah.
this is going to be really bad. Wow. But then you had like the crystal form, and they were more just kind of, but I mean, just don't feel anything. I mean, you could hit them with everything you have, and they just don't realize what happened.
Right.
But yeah, you get these guys on high on the crank and the meth, and it's different. And then they use these weird combinations. They'll mix. You get like LSD and PCP or LSD and crank and stuff, and it's just they don't even realize what they're doing.
Right.
And yeah, it's just
and it's very, very dangerous for your guys and gals, along the way too.
And just people with mental issues that, I mean, when they become in these psychological states where, I mean, they're hallucinating and think you're some kind of aliens, and we've had that, and they're fighting for their life.
Yeah.
They're fighting with everything they have. And, and we're fighting, kind of cuffed up because you're trying to do stuff and not hurt them.
And have there been situations when you have somebody that's obviously not from a weapons point of view, but they're just out there on the streets and they're just cranked out on something. You're trying to just protect them, and they're going like you're an alien.
Yeah. And so what happens, and that's where a lot of these things go wrong, is you're fighting with these people, and now you're locked up because, if you can grab them, they can grab you.
Right.
And now you're locked in this struggle, and it ain't going well. And that's when, you get some of these things where, hey, if someone is well, they didn't have a weapon, yeah, but some of these people are easy to kill someone. Some of these people can, I mean, with blows and hits, and they get you in a chokehold. We had this one, where this one guy, it's on video, and people just driving by, don't stop to help, locked the officer up in a chokehold, and he's choking him out. Luckily, the officer was able to fight through it.
Yeah,
and some of these guys, they are, like last night, traffic stop guy just comes out around the blue and just fires right away on officers. Now, luckily, hit the one guy in the vest. But it's just some of these people, what do they have to lose?
And a lot of the laws and a lot of the things that are going on, especially in California right now, are just, man, you guys just are like that proverbial concept, right? You're handcuffed, and
they know it,
and they know the law probably better than you guys.
Yeah,
some of these guys.
It's just, and it's weird when you talk to people. I remember this one guy, he's wanted on this deal, and we're like, hey, dude, put your hands, and he's just like trying to provoke to getting shot. And it's fine. You ask him, it's like, why? He's like, well, if you should kill me, it ain't my problem anymore. My family will get paid. And if I live, then I'm going to get paid. It's just, and they know, okay, I'm not really going to do any serious time anymore, because there for a while, I mean, these guys are going to go, and even like, they'd violate parole, and they'd send it back 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or a year. Now it's like they're out a matter of hours. They're not holding them. So there's just like really no consequence to it. And assaulting an officer now, there's no extra charge and stuff.
Wow. And it's funny because you that warrior mindset that, we try to instill on our officers, the men and women that are doing this, you're trying to think to yourself, hey, listen, we're trying to do a good job. We're trying to, be part of this department and try to do good protect our communities. And do you feel that now that you're retired, do you feel that people are going into the service of, with public service, with it being police officers, things of that nature, that we're having a difficult time filling slots for the men and women? Or are they coming out of the woodwork to go, hey, I want to really, really take charge and be that warrior within myself and help out the community?
It's kind of a mix. I mean, you get some people want to come out, and man, they get you see some good people. And over the years, even, you saw things start to change. I had some good people come on, man, and some kids I really liked. But, it's what happens when you look for a look instead of,
conviction.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We want so much of our department to be this. We want so much of our leadership to be this.
Gotcha.
And that's what, here's the look we want.
Right.
Okay. And, it's really sad because but years ago, it's, you have some people, I remember some staff members were like, it doesn't matter who we put in that spot. Like, leading a team, whoever we put there will do just as good a job as anybody else.
That's not always the case.
Yeah, it doesn't always work out that way. It
doesn't always work out that way.
But no, you get some good folks coming on, but it's just kind of different because, it's just a different generational thing, because not only a lot of times, at a certain point, you're old enough to be the dad, they're like, hey, that nickname dad. But then when I got ready to leave, because I got a little bit of an extension past the mandatory age that we had back then of 60, I realized I'm old enough to be somebody's grandfather.
Pretty damn close, right?
That are coming on. And it's just different, and like I said, you get some good kids and stuff, and you feel bad because they come in, like, I was a detective sergeant down there, and they come in at night. Hey, they bring their friends. Tell them what it was like. Tell them some stories.
Back in the day. Yeah.
And, but it's the same difference as someone who's in the military now compared to, somebody in World War II. I mean, it was just a whole different mindset, the way business got, taken care of, how the military did stuff then.
The toys that they're using nowadays compared to then.
But I mean, now, would we think of just going and leveling every city in a country?
Yeah, no, like they did. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or, it was, but it's just different because they feel, the constraints, and some of these guys really want to do, and it's just how things have changed for them and stuff. And then you get in the kind of thing of why. I mean, because back then, hey, okay, you get hurt and this kind of stuff, fighting with these guys, taking, but they're going to go do some time. And you have removed the problem.
And you feel good about yourself.
You felt good about it.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to go out and do it for what? And chances are they've caught on to the concept of no matter how guilty they are, before, you go to court, you're testifying, and, their lawyers, when they have no case, the only thing they do is attack you and try to make you look stupid, right? If you let them. But now, okay, all we got to do is they'll tell them, hey, just go make a complaint. So then you go to court, well, isn't it true that you're being investigated for that? Yeah, because your client called in and just the bogus complaints. And it's funny because, like with the police cameras, like, at first, we don't, and now you have some of these officers like, I will not go into patrol unless I have a camera, because so much of these complaints, these people are calling in, they did this. And, he was a sergeant, so I'd review, his plan. Yeah. Well, let me just show you this.
Yeah.
Because it ain't what you said it was.
So you think those are helping out overall?
The officers who have them now?
Yeah.
And a matter of fact, you had some of these rights groups complain and wanted to get rid of the cameras because it was now showing a lot of the majority of their people's stuff was a bunch of crap.
Yeah, they're the ones causing the problem.
And the only thing that really you get, I know some of these other agencies have stuff, but like with Fresno, the worst thing you get is, the officer used a naughty word, okay, so, well, that's not professional, and you need, and so, a guy gets spanked, you do a great job on the whole call, but, you said a word, and now, okay, now you get, on this, or you make a joke, like, because you got a sense of humor, and, you make, something, well, is that okay.
Yeah. So how long have you been out now?
A year and a half.
About a year and a half?
Yeah, and I maxed out.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I came on, there was that age. I'm under that contract. But now you can stay as long as you want. But ironically, most people try to get done as soon. They want to get this and be gone and retire.
Hit that time, and just punch out.
And so now it's like, okay, what are you doing, in retirement?
So, I was just going to say the next question. So what do you do what do you want to be when you grow up?
Well, and that's the thing is, you look at some of these gigs, and the tough, not to sound snobbish and stuff, but, there's a lot of money to be made, in some of these security gigs, stuff like that for FPD. But, man, it's like, after you've been in these units and done all this kind of work, man, you want to go, regardless of the money, and put a, security shirt on. It's kind of, I did a few gigs with one of the people just for some laughs. Walk around and make jokes with the old officers and stuff like that, and this, and walk around and talk about old times. But, that's kind of the thing. And then, you talk about, well, why don't you go like the district attorneys or,
right.
Or these.
Yep.
But that's the other weird thing. So, okay, I'm in, my 60s.
Yeah.
And I worked all these kind of things and this, and, the rep I had when I left there. And then now I'm going to go, and now it's going to be the 24-year-old kid is going to be my boss telling me what to do.
Oh, right.
And I'll do it. Yeah. But
you don't really have to anymore.
Yeah. And I worked those extra years. So and my wife, why don't you just do stuff around the house? My 2 Rottweilers like having me home. They get like weird anxious when I'm not there. So
So with that being said, do you sometimes, and that's why we talked off camera before we started, getting into the fitness, getting back into shape, working the nutrition. What are you finding in your life right now, being retired, obviously, because you said, I'm probably not going to do any of that security stuff or any of the departments. Like you say to yourself, going out into the sunset, it's going to be fitness, nutrition. Like what else? Like what do you see yourself doing?
So, I was one of those guys, I played sports all the way, back, and then probably I was 23, I got into, a guy got me into like heavy lift, so, and I realized though in life that there's a few times I really have to benching 500 pounds, so it comes in handy, and you realize that, it's hard on your body.
Yeah.
And, you lose the mobility and this, and, and like you get in fights in the street. Okay. You look big, and a lot of people go, oh, okay. But when you had, and some people are like, I don't care.
Right.
And I dreaded the thin guys because they had that endurance and just trying to hold on to a cat.
Yeah.
And you start getting into these fights, and it's like, God, starting to win. All I can do now is just like, lock on and hold on as best I can. But so, so he trained that way, and then like a lot of work injuries and stuff, getting shot and, fracturing a shoulder joint or you're breaking this, you're wired up and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was like that series of injury, rehab, and this. And what was a hard thing is, seeing, I was about mid-50s, I could still, pick up the 125 pounds and bang it and this. And then you realize after you think, I can't do that anymore. And I started kind of shying away from the gym. And I got into one unit, a detective unit, where I probably worked 70 to 100 hours a week. And so my eating off, my sleep was off. I started gaining weight and this kind of shit. And it was the first time in my life I just quit doing that. And you get that kind of embarrassed spot where you want to go back to the gym. You know what you used to be able to do, but you can't do it anymore. And that was kind of hindering me. And then I started went on the keto intermittent fast. I had like 5 days without eating, and I dropped down probably 40 pounds. Right?
Nice.
Started back in the gym. Also, well, now you have another surgery and stuff, so you can't lift for this long. You can't do this. And that kind of crushed me. And I was just kind of like, okay, I do stuff around the house. I just didn't have the oomph to go back then. I don't know. And then that's the same time I retired, because I went back to patrol for my last year. I was back out having a good time. Hey, you have to go. It's your time is done. And so, you have that kind of thing. You have this big change. I've done this most all my adult life.
Yeah, that mentality, and it's funny because that mentality, that warrior mentality, you're on the go, the adrenaline's kicking in all the time, and now
minimum
it's boom,
60 hours a week. And I was that guy who, even as a senior guy, I still worked nights.
Yeah,
I enjoyed nights. I liked the action. I was still knocking in doors, still chasing people down. And so I went through kind of okay, I'll do some stuff around the house. I'll do this. Hey, all the projects you've been promising, man. So I'm doing this kind of stuff. But I just, hey, look, Gilligan's Island,
Gilligan's Island.
So, and then what happened is he met him. I said, Pat Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
So this guy joined the military in 1965. Went to Don 2 tours. Joins FPD in 1970. He works till he maxed out by age in 2008. Then he goes to the tribal police for years. Then he finally retires at 75 from Fresno City College at 75. Still in uniform. Still doing it, right? He's you look at him. Yeah. And he's but he's the guy we used to have these contests with. Like, so, he was swings. I was a midnight patrol sergeant. Like, okay, go all winter long without a jacket, short sleeves. Okay, go without eating for this long. Okay, can you do 100 push? Okay, you do 150. Can you this? Okay, now you got 140. Can you do them clapping? Can you this?
Yeah.
Can you that? And so he just calls me. And when he retires, he goes, hey, what are you doing? I said, I'm watching Gilligan, right?
Yeah, right.
And he's like, nah, man, I'm coming over. And he takes me up to the park, and he throws his karate belt up over the thing. Okay, now we're going to be doing this. And take this baseball bat and swing this. All right, now get out the boxing gloves. Dude, we're going to box it.
Yeah.
Here in the park, I'm waiting for all the police.
Mitts.
I'm waiting for all the police calls and stuff. So we do that for a bit. Hey, look, man, I haven't been using my gym membership. How about you come over? I'll, put you on. And so we went in, and so he helped me get past that thing of, okay, I used to be able to do this. Well, we ain't anymore. And we're going to start like this, and more very eclectic workouts. And
Yeah,
it's
functional.
like, okay,
Functional.
before I have to go in, I'll do this, I got to do this many. It's like, okay, well, and then like this last series, okay, we'll do legs every day, at least 3 to 5, 6 sets. And then he got me into this long time about the static holds. Okay, can you do like the slow movements and then, okay, now I'd like the big thing, hold for a second. Hold it out for a minute. Try holding, like, get the load up the hammer, put this. How long can you hold this weight? For a minute, 2 minutes. And then breathe 5 times and bang out until you rep out again. And then breathe 5 times and do this. And then hold one in place while you work the other one in this. And, okay, we're going to do our arms first. Then we'll do our chest. And then, okay, we're going to do this. But today, we're going to do this.
But he had you, it's almost funny because you get to retirement and then you're looking for something to do, like a purpose. And that mentality, that warrior mentality, may not be knocking on doors and jumping over fences, but it's like you and he are back to when you're almost in the department where you're competing again.
Well, and it's funny because, like, sometimes, okay, we're going at 9 o'clock tonight. Okay. And all these young people there, because we're the only old guys, like, you guys are great, because they're seeing these, like, how do you guys do that stuff? Yeah, but it's like, man, you guys doing these, you've been here like an hour and a half. Yeah. And he's like, you ready to drop it yet? And I'm like, oh, I can't. Now you've done that, I can't be weak. And then all of a sudden he'll break out laughing and goes, I find pain funny. Okay, then. But, and so these young kids, man, hey, you guys doing it, And so I said, it's like, the stuff we're doing now was popular 30 years ago. Same as diet. The keto thing was big back in early 80s. And then everything like cycles again, like these workouts and stuff.
The cycling aspect is funny. Just a real quick story. My dad was from the Bronx and things like that. And when we grew up, the clothes were changed in the 70s. We grew up in the late 70s and early 80s.
All back.
I give my dad a hard time. He wore the penny loafers with a penny actually in the loafers. And he was wearing chinos. They're called chinos back in the 50s, right? And he wore a white T-shirt with his cigarettes rolled up. And he goes, don't worry. He says, they're coming back. And sure as shit, they came back as Dockers. You know what I mean? And then the Dockers came out with loafers and things. Things rotate. And the workouts, the bicep still attaches the way it did thousands of years ago. So you can only make up so many exercises. So things ebb and flow as research supposedly comes around. But, the workouts that you're doing, and it's kind of cool because that mental aspect that you have, and you keep the endorphins with your job as a police officer for so many years. And what's the if I'm not mistaken, say for example you retired at 55. What do they say the attrition rate for a lot of police officers? 5 years.
5 years.
Everybody has a party, right? Everybody has a party on the beach. I made it past 5 years after retirement. But if guys are doing this stuff, and then Pat, we'll have to get him on the show because people got to see him. The guy is yoked for 76. For 76 years old, and his mentality is no joke. Well,
he was one of the mentors, and thank God. And you wonder why some cops turn out. And this is something, I try. I've told the new chief, and is in the military. And this is a funny thing is, I remember I'll never forget this, because I'm going to be a officer in the military and stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember I was about 12 or so going to see. The second in the Dirty Harry installment, Magnum Force.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm leaving, I'm kind of upset. And my dad goes, hey, what's wrong, kid? I'm like, Dad, Dirty Harry, he's just a cop, and he talks down, and they make the lieutenants, they all look like idiots. They don't know what they're doing, this kind of stuff. To rise up in the police or military, you have to be the smart as this. My dad goes, kid, you don't know how things work. It's the NCOs that make things work. Sure. That is what actually make things, and you look historically at the armies, like in World War II, World War I, that did the best, right? Sergeants. Even though they lost, but the British, the Americans, and the Germans, they are the only three that had a strong NCO corps. The others were, they rotate NCOs and stuff. And when I came on, there were a few good lieutenants when I came on, a few good staff members. But the formative ones that you saw the best officers who, not whatever ranks and stuff, but who came on, it was that sergeant that they worked for. And right. Pat Jackson was and he was that guy that, hey, we're taking no nonsense out here. It's every night we're going to go out, we're going to address these crime problems. We're not going to sit in the office and this. And he held people accountable. You come to briefing, you better know your stuff. Hey, get up, rookie, and recite what the policy is on this, or what would you do in this circumstance and stuff. And people were intimidated by him. But in times like, man, thank God we had him. And he made us so much better. And that's the kind of guys I learned to emulate. And there were some other guys that just, they looked out for their people, but they held their people accountable. And you learn from them. And they were insightful. I said, I think a chaplain was once saying about it is they had the two biblical things of prophecy, where they could see trends, they could see things, and discernment. They could see things for what they were and figure things out. And they bestowed knowledge. They taught you how to think the right way.
Right.
Of, okay, here's how you solve these issues. Here's how you keep out of these situations. And here's what you need to do. And if you start going down that, they pull you in and, hey, kid, what the hell you think you're doing? And, sometimes they had to give you that. And they were more like, like a dad. Right. And even it's tough for me because I call Pat Uncle Pat, because it was hard for me when I promoted to the same rank to just call him by his first name, because you still had that reverence
and seniority,
and still, I mean, we laugh. It's like we go to the gym. It's like, well, I don't know. You're leading this thing, man. You're the senior partner.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's always going to be till the day he passes, right? But it's the same as the people who work for me, because I try to carry on those traditions. Right. I still hear from them. They still come by. We still, do stuff, or they have questions. Hey, Sarge, what do you think? Or, because I can still rep people like an IAs and stuff. Mm-hmm. Hey, would you, would you come down, on this deal? But it's that same kind of.
But it's that same mentality. You still have that. You're retired now. You still have that same mentality. You're in the gym. That mental aspect of it. Your mindset. That warrior. Mindset that we kind of named the podcast after. You're retired now, and you and Pat. Well, like you said, we'll have to get Pat on here. Great guy too. But you're still working that, and people still come to both you guys, with possible questions in here and there, or they see you in the gym and they say, "Man, who are these guys working out in the gym like this?" You're always leading by example.
It's one thing that I've always said. And I tell people, if you want to go to promote or something like this, that there's one word that just credibility. Mm-hmm. Is people can say there are a lot of things, or I've done this, go this out, but people see in time who they trust,
right?
Who will come through, and who's full of shit, right? I mean, so many of those people, when push comes to shove, when the chips are down, who's going to be standing by? And in the darkest, worst moments of my life, Pat was one of those guys who was there in my corner, and he sacrificed some stuff in his current stuff to make sure that, really bad things didn't happen for me, that he stood up for the right thing. And that's the kind of thing that people, and it has to be its own reward. Because, you try to tell people, man, you got to depend on yourself. And there's, you think you have all these friends, if you can count 5 people when it comes down to it, but it's just that resilience, and it's just the credibility, and just people who are going to do what they say they're going to do. And that they have that moral compass that, okay, I'm not a stickler for the rules, but that they will always do the right thing.
Yeah.
And when they tell you something, they are telling you because that's what you need to hear. Not what you want to hear, but this is what you need to hear,
And it seems like that's lost a little bit, don't you think? With this generation.
Well, you can't talk. Oh, I mean, and most, I look at most of my complaints, I stuff or internal stuff where, you upset somebody, you talk to them harshly, or this or that. And we laugh. It's like, my God, you could not take, like when we came on, same as the old military stuff. I remember one time I did something. I started, and next thing I hear this knocking at my door. I'm home, and it's this lieutenant. And he wasn't mine, but they knew that he was the guy I listened to. Old Greg Coleman. And so, okay, now imagine you're in your own house. He goes, "What the do you think you were doing?" And just proceeds to yell at me and makes me go sit at my own kitchen table while he yells at me.
Yeah.
And then, "What do you think you were doing?" And well, shut up when I'm talking to you. Okay, right? And then finally, when he's done, okay, here is how you're going to straighten this out. Here is what you are going to do this very moment You know, it's like, okay, you needed your ass kicked. You needed to hear this, but now, how do you straighten it out?
And it also made you, because I had that time and many times in the military too. And you get your ass chewed and whatever. But all of a sudden, you have to step back with yourself, and you have to step back in yourself to say to yourself, okay, how much with this was my fault? And you go, most of the time, probably was most of my fault. And you deserved what you got.
Or you could have done something. You should have.
Yeah.
Like one lieutenant goes, you're the smartest guys I know, but you do some of the stupidest things. You botch the easy ones.
Yeah.
You always write on the good ones. But
missed the free throw.
I think the most prophetic I ever heard was my dad. He worked with this guy, this Japanese guy. He was part of the Nisi division, and decorated stuff. And he was this guy who just called things how they were. And I remember one time I was a kid, and he came to all the family events, and I'm complaining about my big brother picking on or just doing something. He goes, well, you've played the asshole many a times yourself. It's like, yeah.
You're like, oh,
thank you for so prophetic. Yeah.
It was well noted.
And that's a problem with a lot of people. They don't want to see that, okay, when things happen, you reflect back of, because now this victimology, people want to be victims. People want this, and they want to let everyone know how they were hurt and offended instead of, okay, here's what happened. You got to put it past. And the things I've gone through, and had issues with people, or people have done things to you or let you down or just gone out of the way, and people can't move past that.
Mm-hmm.
And, ironically, like one of my deals where someone, yeah. And then later, hey, you know what? Things have changed. Why don't you come work for me? And I need you now to do this, this, and this. All right, that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity to fix and move on with this stuff.
Right.
And it was funny because even some other people were like, oh, you're a traitor, you're this, that. No, it's a smart thing to do. And if a branch is being extended and it benefits you, and you can benefit you and people around you from that.
And there you go. That goes back to, where we're at. That's that mindset, that warrior mindset in yourself to say to yourself, okay, well, yeah, things didn't go the way I wanted to originally. I looked, egg in my face, but all of a sudden it comes back around, and all of a sudden you have this opportunity, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to take it like a man, and I'm going to take this opportunity and run with it.
And that is the thing, is recognizing opportunities, putting old business behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, the other thing that so many people don't, you hear so many people complain about the rough breaks or this, is instead you should be grateful for the things that have gone right.
Right.
I mean, and I've had stuff where, it was dark. It was, hey, man,
did not go exactly right.
This is going really bad. And this is, this can go tragically for the rest of my life stuff. I remember, and I remember this one person go, dude, if I had all that going right now, man, I couldn't take it. I'd probably just kill myself. Really? Live, man. Still got a job.
Exactly.
Got a wife and kids that love and respect me. I can go out to dinner once a week, and, I can catch a Giants game once a year or whatever. And I said, I'm ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, what have I had that's gone right? And when things go wrong, can you seize on an opportunity to make things right? And, instead of worrying about the people who've turned their back or failed you, hey, Pat, and these other people who were there.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for those. I'm grateful for my wife, and kids stuff who never, and she's been through some stuff to stand by me. And that they have stood by. And, I think one of the best things my wife ever said to me was, it was like one of these, okay, man, here's one of these, which road am I going down right now? And I asked her, I go, would it be easier to not love me anymore or not respect me anymore? She goes, oh, I can stay with you. I don't love you. I could never stay with you. I don't respect you. And that answered my question for me. So just be ready. It may go this way, but it's when you have people in your life and, they're on the same thing. And, like somebody like relationships in my life, it's funny because I got the chance to read some of this stuff in federal transcript stuff. Well, he was really nice to me, but, I wasn't the whole center of his world. And I should have been this. And why me and my wife work out is that she is, hey, look, PD was his thing. And if he has to be gone for 2-3 days and doing his stuff and this kind of stuff, and if they call, even though we have other plans, he's not going to be here because of this. I respect that. And that's what he does. And as long as he's this, it's not all about me. It's not about this. And you have to have that person that is on that same place with you and will defend you and will always stand up, because so many, like in relationships, I remember going out one time, this girl was like, oh, they say all these bad things about you at work. Would you say anything? No, I was just listening. My wife, heaven forbid you say something about me.
Oh, no, I know her too really well.
And even if we are having a beef, and the point where she is, she's funny because I get into those things where you get mad. You just every night I'll be sitting in the chair at 2:00 in the morning, just mad. I just don't. And she come out, okay, whenever you get straight in your head of that thing of yours, and but she understands that's how you are. But just get through it, and if you need any help. But
but you
would never know.
Too,
you would never know that we were having a beef or an issue outside of us. Because everybody wants to put all their business. Oh, well, hey, what happens with that? And no, she's tough, man.
I mean, she's that warrior too, and that mindset she has. I mean, I've known her a long time too, and that's kind of cool. Like, we use the podcast sometimes as I'm getting on the other side of the table with an individual along the way. We just talk about that warrior mindset, talking the individual, but really, the warrior mindset is you have a team at times. There's a team of you. There's a team of warriors together that sometimes keep people right. You know what I mean?
With her too so I used to have this one workout I'd pull out about every 2 years. It was one of those pre-Olympic workouts, and it's a bitch. And every now and then, if I wanted to screw with somebody at the gym, that's why I'm still lifting heavy and stuff. It's like these guys, try this. It's like an 8-week program, and they get about 2. I'm done. She is the only person that ever hung. I mean, she does different ways.
Yeah, of course.
But it's a backbreaker, and she did it. But she'd go out and run, and she's a top shot. I mean, she's like a marks. I'm a slop shooter, man. Everyone laughs. I'm half the time out of the holster on target, but my group's like this. She's like one of those.
Yeah.
But it's funny. It's like we go out and always have a 9 tucked under. That's why I blouse my shirts and stuff. And I go, okay, if it gets ready to go down, I'll step in front. You step in behind me. You draw the gun and shoot because I trust your shooting much better than I trust mine.
Those are those warriors that do practice.
Yeah, but she's that one all the shit going on right now in the country and stuff. She's like, all right, how much ammo do we have? We have on these calibers and stuff,
See, there's that. We'll get your wife on here one of these days. I mean, she's got a great story too, I'm sure.
Oh no, she's funny, man. She's and she is just push comes to shove. There's no doubt with her.
So, well, listen, we'll finish up here. We could, Mike, you and I could go on this forever. I know I'd probably close to an hour right now, but I want to thank Mike a lot for coming here. We could shoot the breeze all day long, probably go for hours. I wanted Mike on here because that warrior mindset, and I've known him for a long time. He's been with the police department. He's done a good job. He's seen some peaks and valleys in his career and his life, which, in my opinion now in retirement, I think he's going to enjoy himself. I think he should, just go out into the sunset, enjoy himself. He's worked hard for 35 plus years. We enjoyed having him on. And with that being said, once again, Mike, thank you very much for coming by. And we look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, please like and subscribe, and then we'll get all Mike's information. If you have any questions on his history, I'm sure he'll be able to talk to you guys about it. And we look forward to hearing you soon.